Hey, Canucks fans, it seems like the Canucks were considering trading down from their 11th overall pick in last month's NHL entry draft. Quite fascinating, a video released by the club on their social media, their YouTube, their Twitter. I'll break it all down in a minute, but first, I wanted to invite you to tonight's live stream. Usually on Sundays, I go 10:30, but I'm going to start at 11 o'clock tonight because I'll be playing in a charity golf tournament. There's the dinner and the banquet afterwards. I don't want to rush back from that. I want to be ready to give you my complete time and attention and energy because on tonight's live stream, I'll be making a major announcement, probably my biggest announcement on the channel in the past 2 years or so. If you remember what I did 2 years ago and you're thinking that maybe I should do it, whatever I did 2 years ago again, then you may be on the right track. So join me tonight at 11 p.m. for my live stream. Again, half an hour later than usual, but it'll be worth it because I'll be making a major announcement and I would love for you to be there with me. You can guess in the comments what you think it's going to be, but I hope to see you tonight at 11. Let's talk about this video and let's talk about the fact that the Canucks were actually willing to consider trading down from the 11th overall pick. We know they ended up selecting Swedish defenseman Tom Willander with that 11th overall pick. So a bit of context here. The Canucks, they have a wonderful social media team, content creation team, videographers, editors, content creators. So they put out this 5-minute all access behind the scenes look at the Canucks process at the NHL draft in Nashville, mostly surrounding the first night and their first round pick. Now, a few things we got to remember that despite how good and talented all these content creators are, they still control the message. And we saw basically the final product that we saw was what they wanted us to see, what they wanted us to hear. And that's fine. That's certainly their prerogative. And we as fans, I think we still appreciate this behind the scenes look at the decision-making process, the thought process when it comes to making such an important decision for the Vancouver Canucks. So let's acknowledge that they control the narrative, of course. We obviously, so that we don't get to see every single thing. We got to trust that everything is edited properly in chronological order. I think that goes without saying. So we don't know all the conversations, but we do get to hear from GM Patrick Alvin, from Assistant GM Derek Clancy, from Director of Amateur Scouting Todd Harvey, from Ryan Beach, from Cameron Granato, and many others. We hear from them, we see them in the video, which is pretty cool. Some other context is we don't know what Detroit, St. Louis, Arizona, and Buffalo were thinking with all their picks surrounding the Vancouver Canucks pick at number 11. So we only know who they ended up picking at those spots, but we certainly don't know their thought process. And if they're offering to trade up, trade down, to swap picks, whatever it is, we don't know who they are going for. We can only speculate. But for this video, for intents and purposes of this video, I only talk about the Vancouver Canucks and kind of get inside their head. So we got to remember those things as well. So remember that we saw what they wanted us to see, and we got to remember that we don't know what the other clubs are thinking. Having said all of that, it's still a fascinating video. And the two most interesting parts of the video that we saw were, number one was Patrick Alvin saying to Todd Harvey, Director of Amateur Scouting, should we move down? And then Todd Harvey responds, well, let's see what the next pick is. And then we hear on the PA, the 10th pick belongs to the St. Louis Blues. So they had this exchange right before St. Louis makes their 10th overall pick. Then, of course, we don't see the Canucks management's immediate reaction after St. Louis makes that pick, and that was Dalibor Dvorsky. And then we go to then their next exchange, the second most fascinating exchange, when then we hear Alvin say to Clancy, they're talking about potentially moving down 2 spots, a spot owned by the Buffalo Sabres at number 13. And then Derek Clancy says, I don't know if our guy is going to still be there 2 spots from now. And that guy is, of course, I believe they're speaking about Tom Willander, who they ended up picking. So we're going to break down kind of those 2 exchanges and how they fit into the bigger picture of what the Canucks actually did on that draft night. Now, one other thing for context, let's remember that Nate Danielson, so Detroit at 9 took the center, Nate Danielson. St. Louis at 10 took Slovakian center, Danielson's Canadian, took at 10, St. Louis took Slovakian center Dalibor Dvorsky. Then the Canucks at 11 took Swedish defenseman Tom Willander. Then at 12, Arizona selected Russian left winger Daniil Bu. And then at 13, Buffalo selected Zach Benson, of course, Canadian, and then a player that many Canucks fans wish that the Canucks either chose or that, yeah, basically wish that the Canucks chose. And I'm not of that camp. I would have been fine with Benson. I'm more than fine with Verlander. So let's not, worry too much about that argument for this video. So that's the context we need to remember. Danielson at 9, Dvorsky at 10, Verlander at 11, Boo at 12, Benson at 13. The biggest thing I'll say, and I think the thing that shapes kind of this entire video, is how high the Canucks were on Tom Verlander. And we see that in the video itself. They show about 45 seconds of an interview they had with him, Verlander, with all Canucks management. They're asking him a question about his playing style, about what it was like to play forward in Sweden as opposed to D, how that helps him, da-da-da. And at the very end, as the door closes behind him as he leaves, Cammy Granato says, he's a beauty. And I kind of think she's summing up the sentiments of the entire Canucks management. So we knew that Verlander was their guy, or at least one of their guys. And we heard going into the draft that actually there are two guys that the Canucks were really after were Danielson and Verlander. We heard a bit about Simashev, but he was picked way earlier. We heard a bit about Matthew Wood, maybe a bit about Benson, maybe a bit about Dvorsky, but we definitely heard the most buzz around Nate Danielson and Tom Verlander. So when Nate Danielson gets picked at 9 by Detroit, that kind of helps the Canucks make their decision. And that's where the first exchange comes in. The first exchange is, should we move down? And then Harvey says, well, let's see who they pick, and they being St. Louis. So if we work with me here, if we work on the premise that the Canucks wanted Danielson and Verlander, and now Danielson is gone, so now just Verlander left, then it would make sense that they wait to see what St. Louis does. St. Louis did not pick Verlander, so that means then that he was right there at 11. So that's why the Canucks did not want to trade down 2 spots to 13. We don't know if Buffalo would have taken Verlander at 11. We don't know if Arizona would have taken Verlander at 12. So that's kind of the speculation I was talking about a couple minutes ago. So if the Canucks indeed wanted Danielson and Verlander, Danielson's gone, then St. Louis does not take Verlander at 10, then the decision's made, and that's why they did not ultimately end up trading down. And I think that's the most likely scenario. No rocket science there. That's the way it played out. And I think that's the way most Canucks fans see it playing out. Now, what happens though if St. Louis chooses Verlander? So this is where it gets interesting. So it still works with this theory of the Canucks really want Verlander. So they had that discussion. Should we move down? Well, let's see what happens with the next pick. Let's imagine that St. Louis picks Verlander. And let's say the Canucks only had Danielson and Verlander on the radar. Then they had a bunch of guys, Dvorsky, Wood, Benson, that they kind of all ranked together at the same spot, same place. Then that's where I do think the Canucks consider trading down. Because if you trade down to 13, which it sounds like remember they were talking about trading down 2 spots. If you trade down to 13 and then the 2 guys that you want are already gone and you're fine with about 3 or 4 other guys, then before you, 11, 12, 13, there's only 2 picks before you. If you have at least 3 on your radar, you're going to get at least have the option to choose at least from one of your guys that you want. So I think that's the scenario. If St. Louis had chosen Tom Verlander, then that's when I think the Canucks would have considered moving down 2 spots. But the way the video was edited, I think is very clear that the fact that discussion about moving down 2 was not going to happen because their guy was still there. That was because Verlander wasn't chosen. But what I'm saying is it would be interesting if indeed my theory of Danielson and Verlander being the Canucks' top 2 choices, if Verlander got chosen at 10, then maybe you do move down a few spots because you have a few guys on your radar. Now, there's one funny scenario I want to run by you guys and tell me if this theory makes sense to you. What happens if the Canucks were high on the 3 guys, Danielson, Verlander, and Dvorsky? Okay, so it checks out. If St. Louis takes Dvorsky, then you still have Verlander. So that part still checks out. And nothing I've said so far kind of goes against that. But what happens if the Canucks are high in the 3 and Danielson's gone at 9, but then Dvorsky, let's say St. Louis doesn't take Dvorsky at 10. Okay, so then that exchange still makes sense. Remember the Canucks want Dvorsky and Verlander now. So the exchange is, should we move down? Let's see who St. Louis picks. They end up picking Dvorsky, as you know. But in this theory now, in this scenario, let's say that the St. Louis picks whoever, Sandin Pellikka or Daniil Boo, whatever. Now let's say the Canucks have 3 guys in mind. Let's say the Canucks had Danielson plus 3 guys in mind, Verlander, Dvorsky, and let's just say, for instance, Zach Benson. Okay, let's use those 3 guys as an example. Then you have 3, remember? You could trade down from 11 down to 13 and get a second rounder, a third rounder, an extra asset, because there's only 2 spots and you have 3 guys in mind. So even if 2 of those guys are taken by now Buffalo at 11, Detroit at 12, you still have the option, the ability to pick one of those 3 guys at 13, and now you recouped an extra asset. So I don't think that was a scenario, but it actually makes sense, and it fits kind of the rationale of waiting to see who gets picked at 10. So to sum up, this is my theory. My theory is that the Canucks had Danielson and Verlander as their big 2. The fact that St. Louis took Dvorsky and not Verlander, that means the Canucks stay at 11 to get their guy. That makes the most logical sense. There is a part of me that wonders what happens if St. Louis took Verlander, then the Canucks could trade down if indeed it was Danielson and Verlander. However, if the Canucks had all 3 equally ranked, Danielson, Verlander, and Dvorsky, the fact that St. Louis takes Dvorsky means the Canucks take Verlander. If St. Louis did not take Dvorsky, then the Canucks could consider trading down if there's a third guy that they wanted, Dvorsky, Verlander, and someone else, because then you're guaranteed to get at least one of those 3 guys at 13, even after Buffalo and Detroit pick at 11 and 12. Okay, I hope I didn't confuse the heck out of you. This took me a few takes because I wanted to make sure I got it right, but I think this is the take that I'm going to keep. I hope you like the new background. I'm not going to use it all the time. I'm actually filming a different part of the house today just to try something different. But that's my take on the video that the Canucks released, and the fact that the Canucks were willing to consider trading down a couple of spots, but a couple of things had to happen that ultimately did not happen. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would love to hear your feedback to my kind of theory as to what was going on there at the draft table. Shout out to my sponsors, Van City Experts Real Estate, Perform and Transform, Personal Training, Weight Loss. Thank you, legendary Lucas Gates, legendary Carol Bovenlander, and legendary Andrew Chang, Hall of Fame and franchise members as well. Thanks for your support, and thanks to all of you. I always appreciate you. I never take you for granted. On your way out, subscribe, like the video, become a member, upgrade your membership, or leave a tip. Leave a comment with your thoughts on my theories, and definitely make plans to join me tonight at 11 p.m. for my live stream, Sunday night live stream, big announcement, games. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, friends, thanks for sticking with me. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Wish me luck at this golf tournament. It could be ugly. God bless, and go Canucks go.